You're listening to a Roddenberry podcast.
Sometimes once you go far enough, there's no turning back. It's 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. It's Monday, and that can only mean it's time for Mission Log Live. I'm John Champion.
And I'm Holly Amos, and tonight we are here to discuss Star Trek Discovery Season 4, Episode 9, Rubicon, with you, our Star Trek pals. Now is the time to do it. Get your questions and comments ready and connect with us. Click on the Zoom meeting link or use the one tap from your smartphone or call us at 669-900-6833. Enter the meeting code and the password you see on the screen, and we will get you into the Earl Green Room.
That is indeed what we will do. You'll talk to Earl, you'll talk to us, we'll talk Trek. It'll be fabulous. Now, before we get to all of that, and even before we say hi to everybody in the chat, and by the way, I see you all in the chat, and I'm very excited to call out some of you by name in a moment. Something else we have to talk about, because usually this is the perfunctory, like, how you doing, Holly? I'm fine. How you doing, John? I'm fine. Or if Norm were here, you know that. Okay, what did you do over the weekend, Holly?
I jumped out of a plane yesterday.
You jumped out of a damn plane.
14,000 feet. I don't know. The video says it was 13,000. My certificate says it was 14,000. But I was very high in the air.
Oh, in the air. Because
I was very high in the air. I went skydiving yesterday. It's a bucket list item. The town where I grew up, they have a skydiving operation that is pretty highly ranked in the United States, definitely in California. It's in Lake Elsinore. And I actually decided that I wanted to do this. When did I write my bucket list? God, when I was in like high school or something. And I have a friend who is an avid skydiver. He lives in New York now. He used to live here. He lives in New York now. And because the New York ones are shut down for the winter, he flew out here and was like, hey, do you want to go? And we had actually planned to do this back in October and got rained out. Like, you can't, obviously, if there's cloud cover and you can't see the ground, you can't go skydiving.
Bad day for skydiving. Sure.
Yeah. So he called me a couple of weeks ago and was like, I'm going to be out there that weekend. Do you want to go on the 20th? And I was like, sure. So I rescheduled it. I had to schedule it because I had to go tandem. Like, you have to go tandem if you're not trained or licensed.
Sure.
He's licensed, so he didn't have to like schedule it. He can just literally show up and jump on a plane and go skydiving. So got there at 8:00 in the morning, and they put me and him on a plane, and they tied me to another person, and I jumped out of a plane. The crazy thing was, and I know my parents are watching right now. Yes. So I called my mom the day before, because again, like, there's the possibility that it can get canceled or that I'll have to reschedule because of weather. Luckily, the weather this weekend was beautiful. It was perfect. And so I called my mom the day before, and I was asking her about something else, but it was like, oh, by the way, I'm going skydiving tomorrow. And she was like, what? So she told my dad, and my dad called me the morning that I'm driving out yesterday morning. Is like, are you nuts? And I'm like, no, I'm just, it's on my bucket list.
And talk to us about the level of being scared. Like,
so the plane flies over my parents' house all day long.
Oh,
so like, wow. At some point I flew over and I could see my parents' house. I was like, that is where I grew up. That is the house that I house I grew up in. It's very easy for me to pick out my parents' house. So, and then I went and had lunch with them, and there was always planes flying over. And I was like, oh, I was on one of those planes and I was that high up. Yikes. Interestingly enough, I was not very scared. And I think it's partially because I grew up in that area, and you can see skydivers from my parents' house. You can see skydivers if you're just on the 15 freeway, they're just over there falling. Like, and there's not a lot of news or occurrences of skydivers like being killed. So there's like a 1 in 101,000 chance that you will die skydiving. It's fairly safe at this point. So I wasn't very scared. And I was with somebody who has done over 100 jumps, and he pretty much put my mind at ease. I was nervous. I would say that I was nervous and I was excited, but I wasn't scared. the adrenaline of jumping out of the plane, like clearly in the video, I'm screaming.
Yes, you are. And it's very
But
entertaining.
it wasn't out of
Yeah.
fear. It was mostly out of adrenaline.
Okay.
It was an interesting experience. You free fall for about a minute, and then the descent down after your chute is between 3 and 5, depending on how heavy you are. So because I'm a lighter person, like I would probably descend in a lot less time than everybody else, but I was tandem, so it was 2 people.
Yeah. That's amazing. All right. Well, anybody who doesn't follow at Holly Amos 22, they can go watch your video, and the video is loads of fun. And we had a very similar week. I mean, I stayed home and I watched Star Trek, and let's see, I took notes, and I watched a movie for Sci-Fi 5. So it's pretty much the same thing.
Exactly the same as jumping out of a plane at
exactly
13,000 feet.
I don't have a bucket list, but if I did, coincidentally, skydiving would not be on it.
That's fine.
So I'm glad.
What would be on it?
Not skydiving. It would be that. In fact,
just that.
I have accomplished that list, not skydiving. So I can scratch that off my bucket list. I've done exactly that. Look, well, that is awesome. And even though I can't see you from the chest down, like I assume your legs are intact and like you're upright and mobile. So everything was good. Good job, Holly, and good job to the person who shoved you out of that plane.
His name's Aaron. He was he was very good.
All right, Aaron, thank you for taking care of Holly and making sure that you both landed safely. So let's say hi to everybody who is in the chat right off the top. Tracy Coco, great to see you. It has been a while, and I'm glad to see you here in the chat. There's Tom, the Vice Admiral. There's our old pal, Scott Palm. By the way, check out Scott Palm on Facebook. He does have a GoFundMe going to take care of some veterinary stuff. So please go say hi to him if you're not following him, and help him because he loves his animals. There is Bob Amos. Yes, he of the Amoses, the famous ones. And I'm talking about the ones that are here right now, not the cookie one. There is Evelyn. There is, who else? Chris Riker. There he says, am I in the right place? This is the show about the dolphin lawyer, right? Yes, 100% it is. So welcome. There's John Arminio. There is, who else? Ooh, there's Paul. There's one Paul. Hopefully we'll have more Pauls tonight. There's Alan. There's Jane. Jane, who is new to the Discord chat and to the Mission Log Patreon, which we'll talk about in a moment. There's Dominic, there's Carlos, there's Anne-Marie, there's so many people who are watching and chatting with us. It is great to see you all. People definitely reacting to your parachuting story with a wow and a Geronimo. So yes, people are very impressed by that. So welcome everybody. Very good to see you here. And a little bit to report from Mission Log World. So let me give you the rundown on what's happening this week. Now, this week, Mission Log is off. Yes, we are creating a little break for ourselves before we start Star Trek Voyager. So right now would be the perfect time to go catch up on our interview with Nana Visitor, who is rad, and our DS9 retrospective that came from your questions and comments that was hosted in a roundtable form by Earl Green, who is also rad, and he is here tonight, and you will talk to him when you call or click on the Zoom link. It is also the perfect time for you to catch up on Mission Log Prodigy. We'll be dropping a new episode of Mission Log The Orville this Wednesday. That would be parts 1 and 2 of Identity, hosted by Jessica Lynn Verdi and Mike Richards. And they, of course, do their live YouTube chat Wednesday mornings when that episode drops at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 noon Eastern. Remember, you can find all of our shows at podcast.roddenberry.com, and you can check out the video feeds of our podcast and Mission Log Engage, which is coming back, I promise, over on Roddenberry's YouTube channel, youtube.com/roddenberryprod or youtube.com/roddenberry entertainment. And yes, Norman and I just working out some scheduling for Engage, but it will be back. I'm going to be gone for a few days, but we're going to release some while I'm gone. So don't worry.
I was like, you could not have run out of hate mail yet.
No. Oh, believe me, we still get message. And of course, what's most entertaining is when you get a message like 3 weeks later, after you got the barrage of people who are all commenting on the same thing. And then 3 weeks later, you get the one like, hey, I don't know if you're aware of this, but let me just make the same comment that 5 dozen other people already made. But that's fine. We love it all. We get it all. We see it all. And then, after we've, cried our tears over your hurtful comments, then we pick out the good ones and we engage with those online. So keep them coming. And tonight, let's get into Star Trek Discovery, because that's what we're here for. We're here to talk about Rubicon, episode 9 of season 4. And all of you who have watched it, presumably, and are waiting patiently for us to get through the quick recap, then you will call in. I already see that we have a few people lined up, so there is still room. And Holly and everybody else, if you'll indulge me, here we go. Isolinium in hand and hiding in the cavity of a rogue planet, Book and Tarka go about completing the weapon that will destroy the DMA. Meanwhile, Michael Burnham is tasked with following them through the tracker she placed and stopping them, but with the assistance of someone who isn't quite as emotionally connected to the situation. Commander Nan! Speaking of emotions, Saru is feeling the weight of the mission and calls on his old friend President Tirina for a little meditation support. She's receptive and very personal, even inviting him whenever he likes to have dinner with her. Discovery jumps to the location of Book's ship, and a cloaked shuttle is dispatched to have a few crew members sneak on board. Bryce, Culber, Reese, and Saru arrive, but a security system that Tarka installed goes into action and starts crushing the shuttle. In order not to kill the crew on board, Book actually helps out to break them free long enough that Discovery can beam them back before the shuttle is completely destroyed. Making sure they're okay, but still intent on his mission, Book jumps out of there. So, Disco is in pursuit to the DMA, where Book and Tarka have gone to deploy their weapon. That leads Nan to inform Captain Burnham and Saru of one additional detail. She has knowledge of how to destroy Book's ship and relieve Burnham of command if it comes to that. Burnham, with Saru's guidance, has a better idea: buying some time. The DMA is mining boronite, and if Stamets can calculate the rate of consumption, they can gauge when the DMA will move again. When Discovery and Book's ship have their next encounter, the two captains are still playing at preventing the other from doing their job. A sensor is disabled here, an explosion in space is created there. That's all well and good, but his ship will get closer to the DMA controller, and Burnham intends to take her ship right in between. There's more shooting at each other, and they're not serious enough to blow each other up, but they are serious enough to fire weapons that make sparks and rocks fall from the ceiling. Commander Nan is just about ready to give that order, superseding Burnham's authority and destroying Book's ship. But Burnham has one last gambit. She'll fly a shuttle herself over to Book, and if the time comes, Nan can do what she needs to do. What Burnham proposes to Book and Tarka is a compromise. They have a week before the DMA moves again. Just a week is all the Federation asks for an attempt at first contact, and then they'll support the plan to use the weapon. And what do you know? Book accepts. He understands, and he's, oh, wait, what's that? Tarka's opinion wasn't accounted for? Well, he's just going to launch the weapon anyway, which makes the DMA blow up real good. Discovery and Book's ship both jumped away in time, but now Tarka faces the huge disappointment that he can't find the power source of the DMA he was looking for because it's apparently controlled from somewhere else in the universe. Womp womp. Disco is back at HQ, no word from Book, no communication with the 10C, no idea what to expect next. Then there's Nan, who says her goodbyes, but she'll be back sometime. Saru seeks counsel with Culber about his invitation from the Ni'Var president, and Culber's sage wisdom can be distilled into something along the lines of, "Dude, are you crazy? Just go out with her already, duh," which is what we were all thinking anyway. So, everybody's got a little downtime right now until, holy crap, sensor readings from the USS Mitchell report another DMA has suddenly appeared in the same place as the destroyed one. Gulp. The end. There you go.
I like the gulp at the end.
Well, because it didn't feel like just going right into the end. You needed a reaction because they all had a reaction. So
Fair.
Yeah. Many thoughts about this one. Lean recap. mercifully, because it was a lean episode. I was surprised that this one was like around the old classic 42-ish minutes. And,
Yeah, I thought it felt short too. I looked at the clock when it was finishing and I was like, didn't I just start this?
Well, really long teaser. Like you had the recap
Yeah.
and the teaser way long before you went to the credits. But you know what? I like it. I like sometimes Discovery, and I certainly, if you've been listening to Mission Log Live, I have had my comments and complaints and criticisms about Discovery, in and among all the things that I like about it too. But I feel like sometimes it gets weighted under sort of the heaviness of the stories that they're telling, and it's nice to see something that's really lean with story and timing. So
yeah, there was also a good balance of action and character development. We got to see more of the bridge crew that everybody's been like, what are the bridge crew doing? Like, where are they? And really good conversation about diplomacy. And there's one line from Saru in the ready room, when he said, in times of division, we focus on what we can agree upon. And I thought that was a fantastic problem solving tactic and very Federation and Starfleet. And
well, and it's very nice when you have both sides who are willing to listen to each other to hear that advice, but which they used very well in that scene between Non and Burnham, but then Burnham is able to use with Book and, not you, Tarka, but
not you, Tarka.
Right. But I thought those moments of trying to figure out the next move were all very good and very well earned in this. And for a show that I think, I've had criticism where Discovery has told rather than shown in many times. This is an episode that showed rather than told.
Right.
And I thought very effective in many of those ways. But hey, it's not just about us. It's about our listeners who have comments and thoughts and questions. So let's welcome our first. It's Paul. It's our first Paul. Hopefully the first of many Pauls tonight. So welcome. How you doing tonight, sir?
Good.
And Tendi.
Yeah, Tendy's here too. She has got her exercise band on because she had the holidays. You got to start exercising. So,
is that what that is?
Nice.
It's that time of year.
I love it.
Great recap. John, at first I was like trying to figure out what I was going to say about. I just didn't find this interesting, but as you talked about it, the shuttlecraft sort of confrontation and then resolution, I thought was well done. But there was no surprise to me that the bomb was going to go off, right? Yeah. Regardless of what Book did, this guy's going to do what he's going to do. So that was sort of anticlimactic. But what I really treasure about this episode is this, watching Saru in this new relationship. Sort of reminds you of, should be a future Taylor Swift song or something. I really have no idea where this is going, but it should be fun. I don't know. Not my favorite, not my least favorite, just sort of there. It's First Contact's going to be interesting. What are they going to do with this guy who broke the law and nothing happened? Does it matter?
Right. Well, which one breaking the law? Do you mean Tarka or Book? Because
all of them, both of them,
all of them. Yeah.
Tarka blew it up. I mean, Book was sort of resolved. He basically agreed not to, but Tarka's just what he is. I wouldn't trust this guy to do, I don't know, laundry. He's just such a tool. But he's designed that way, and that's what sort of I thought was flat about the episode. Is like, I know where this is going. I just thought bringing the relationships in was pretty interesting at this point. So I don't know what's going to happen.
The explosion was kind of, I have that in my notes. The DMA explosion was kind of lame. I was like, that was anticlimactic. Like I knew that was going to happen too. I was like, oh, Tarka is going to intervene. But it was just like, boom. And then that conversation was over. And I was like, all right, well, but then him finding out that, the device isn't actually there and it's on the other side. And I was like, oh, okay. There's a reason why I was a little bit anticlimactic, because that was not like the end of that story. Yeah. But I was a little bit like,
So the other thing I see coming, the very end, it's like, did we make just first contact? To me, it's like, well, this thing broke. Let's send in a new one.
Yeah, like is the species even aware? I mean, because if you think about how unaware we were of their motivations, and then we find out via observation and science that it's actually a mining vessel, and they probably don't mean to be destroying planets and killing off entire species. Is it sort of the same thing for them? Like, are they like, they see it, that it's not there anymore, and do they have any idea that there's all these other species that are like, no, you're killing us and we're going to blow it up? Like, they could just be like, oh, this thing broke and we're going to fix it, or put a new one in, install a new one. Like, I feel like they're completely unaware.
Yeah. I mean, they're so far advanced. I mean, I think the equivalent is like, when they built a new condo building next to my place, and it's like all of the stuff that got uprooted, and the ants and bugs and all the stuff that were in the earth at that point, like it doesn't matter. You don't think about that.
Yeah.
that's what the species 10C has as far as mining boronite where they need it, because they need the stuff. They're sending off their equipment to some other place in the universe where they don't care or know what's going on. It's just the material.
John,
after.
You have to consider, okay, so we put all this energy in, and this guy concocts this illegal, highly controversial material to blow the thing up, and they simply send in another one. Good luck with this.
Yeah, like how many spares do they have?
Right.
Well, what do their weapons look like?
Yeah, and that's a question that the admiral asked. Like, that's insane. What are their weapons going to look like? That's the scary part of this.
And is this a being or an intelligence that can be reasoned with? Again, does it just sound like so much noise if you've got the whole Federation from our end of the universe saying, hey, stop that? What? Wait, why?
Yeah, like perhaps it doesn't
care?
even have language. I mean, like the crystalline entity, same thing. It didn't have any idea what it was doing. It was just trying to survive, unbeknownst to it that it was impacting and killing people. But there was also like not really a way to communicate with it.
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, I want to acknowledge a few of the comments here that I thought were definitely on point. Carlos saying exactly what was on my mind. Chekhov's DMA bomb. Yes, if you introduce the DMA bomb, you have to see the DMA bomb go off. So you're 100% right. Dominic saying the shuttlecraft close-up scene looked rad. I thought both shuttlecraft scenes looked great. They make really good use of those sets, and that was cool. Like, in a lot of Star Trek, we've seen the main view screen as essentially a camera looking out into the world. But in this case, you have a shuttle and you have bookship, literally just glass,
windshield,
looking at each other. And that was very cool. It was a dramatic way to do that. And then Dave Takechi, got to thank you here for bringing this up. By the way, I will say this about the episode. I recommend everyone go back and watch the Voyager episode, The Omega Directive. Pay careful attention to what the Omega molecule looks like, which only 7 of 9 actually saw, and then rewatch this puppy, meaning Rubicon.
I thought that too.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I do remember that there was the Omega Directive. I do remember that was a thing in Voyager, but I am pleasantly forgetful of my last rewatch of Voyager, because now we have just started Voyager for Mission Log. So honestly, I don't want to skip ahead. I know we got a ways to go because it's like season 6 or 7 that comes
It's pretty late, yeah.
It's pretty late, yeah. So I don't want to go back and rewatch it, but I'm glad that there is a tie-in here.
There's a lot of potential tie-ins that I'm seeing, and there's just a lot of callbacks that are probably not tie-ins at all. But like non-coming back, and like the Barzan species at all existing in a time in which there's, this thing that's moving around the universe, just made me think of The Price, because that's the first time we see that species and there's a moving wormhole, and it just had the same vibes to me. But Omega I thought of, and like the more and more Tarka, and people have said this before, and I was like, but more and more he aligns with Lazarus from The Alternative Factor.
Oh dear God. Oh, God.
Like, are we going there? Is that who this is?
Oh, what?
You're the one who liked him.
Yeah.
I do like him. I
You
still
do.
like him. And if he's Lazar, oh God.
There you go. You can wrestle with him in Never Never Land.
Yeah, right,
We'll
right.
see how much you like him.
By the way, let's do another mind-blowing thing here. Again from David. Finally, I will add this in the episode, The Omega Directive. It is stated the Borg used boronite once to synthesize a single molecule of, drumroll please, Omega.
Mhm.
And it
And the-
says, Mike dropped. My
yeah, and
prediction-
very early on, I think I said in an episode that when they first started talking about a species has made this thing, I was thinking Borg.
Well, and Dave says, my prediction, we will either see Omega or the Borg by the end of the season.
Oh.
Look, I don't know.
At least he
I
gives
don't
us
know.
some direction. Right now I'm just sort of hanging here going, so I'm still in I like the dinner date. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Okay,
the rest of it can go happen.
Well, see, but I think, Paul, that speaks to what happened in this episode that I really connected with, is it felt like there were character moments that were really genuine.
Yes.
And even if it was just like bringing Nan back and her reunion, like all of that felt great. And I so want to see more of Commander Nan. I think she is so good and just kind of like an untapped resource for this show. Having that shuttle trip with Saru, Reese, and Bryce, really good stuff with them. And it took up very little screen time, but it was valuable. Like if we had gotten that 2 seasons ago, I feel like we'd have all been much more appreciative. And then you got Saru and the Prez.
I'll end here, John, with I agree with that completely. I think this show has gotten a great direction now. There's much more, tentacles going out all over the place, and it's more interesting. It's not, and they've really cut back on the violence. They don't have so much graphic violence. And I'll leave you with this. I think Saru's parallel to Odo, sort of, that's what it reminds me of. That sort of experimenting with a different kind of relationship. He's
that
just
is a vibe, isn't it?
He's such a great actor, and he's got that bizarre sort of ethereal, just Doug Jones is just so incredible in person and in this character. It just comes through. So I'll leave you with that. And I know you got plenty more folks on the line. Holly, thank God you're alive. Why would you jump out of a perfectly good airplane?
I say that in my video. Go watch my video. I literally say I'm going to jump out of a perfectly good airplane.
You can, no thanks. But anyway, congratulations. And carry on, fine folks. We'll see you again. Peace out.
Paul, have a great night. Wonderful. By the way, Dominic in here making a plea to Eagle Moss for Lazarus's ship.
I don't think Eagle Moss has done it yet, but I'm fairly sure someone made it. Was it the Christmas ornaments? I think there's a Christmas ornament.
No way. Yeah. Okay. Well, that sounds like Kevin Dillmore's sick sense of humor. So sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I think Hallmark made a Christmas ornament of it.
Wow. Wow.
Anyways.
All right. Well, let's talk to our next caller. Haven't seen him in a little while, but here he is. He's back with some amazing comments on tonight's Discovery. It's the Vice Admiral. How you doing tonight, sir?
I am good. Been a while, John and Holly. How you both doing?
Good. Good to
I'm
see
alive.
you. Yeah.
Yeah. I heard about your aside from the skydiving, the lip incident.
I didn't do that today.
Yeah,
I'm fine. I did not punch myself in the face with my headphones tonight, so that's good.
Extra bonus.
Norman was trying to give me a description of that, just the tension from the headphones.
Yeah, I went to open them to put them on my head, and my right hand let go, and it punched me in the face, and it split my top lip. It split my lip open.
Wow. Okay. But
So,
you carried on with the show because you're
you can tell that I'm favoring my lip.
Well, not from the audio.
No,
that's good.
That's sort of like that idiot thing where you're laying in bed reading something and the phone drops.
You drop your phone on your face.
Yeah, that's yeah.
Well, and the week before, I burnt my finger with my hair straightener. So I mean, I might have died yesterday.
Total disaster. Tom, what is on your mind tonight?
Well, I mean, Dave in the chat already brought up some of the whole point of boronite.
Yeah.
And even though Saru said that boronite can be used to make some of the most powerful things, substances, whatever he said last week, we only know of one, and that is Omega.
Yep.
Mm.
And, the reason the Borg couldn't do it again is why? Because they couldn't find enough, because they didn't apparently have a 5 light year across dredge, or 5, however big the DMA is. It is certainly massive. And if the thing that we saw at the end of last episode as well is where they live, it's like they've enclosed their civilization in some gigantic shielded thing, like makes a Dyson shell look laughable, then they would need the power, which is what they said. They said they would need such an enormous source of power. Well, we know of one, and that is Omega.
Well, all right. See, this is interesting because I had until tonight, I had not put any of these pieces together, and it's really interesting to hear everybody speculate. I'm curious to hear how this goes. And I'm of two minds about it. One, this is a very clever way to introduce this idea. And true to Borg form, it's just a purely pragmatic exchange. It's just like, okay, there is a thing out there that we need this element, we're going to go get it. And that's the way it works. Now, the other side of me that looks at Star Trek totality, I just wonder, like, how many more things do I need to see that also existed in other Star Trek?
Totally agree, but it doesn't mean that these are Borg that have kind of found Omega. And you got to wonder the way that Seven reacted when she saw for that moment. You have to wonder if the Borg actually somehow were what we're going to see, which I hope not. I do. But if we did, is it the Borg after they've discovered their holy grail, their perfection, and they've become something completely different?
Well, and that is interesting. He's got 800 years of change and evolution since we last encountered the Borg. So, there's plenty of room for writers to flex some creativity there and figure out what they would be or could have become. Or I'm interested, but I also don't want to feel like we're just going back to the well.
Agreed, and that is my fear for this. If that is what it is, then is it just yet another? Oh, look, there's some nostalgia for you. Let's have some more. I mean, Lower Decks, that's what we're supposed to have from there. We don't need it for every other Trek show.
Right. Well, and then I wonder if we would feel differently. Of course, the Borg were used throughout Voyager, and you even came back for a moment in Enterprise, and of course,
Picard had it too, which is why I thought there's no way
good point.
Writers would be putting it in Discovery too, which is why I gave up on early on when the Borg popped into my head. I was like, no, because Picard had the Borg too. Like, why would they? I don't know.
Well, see, and that's kind of what makes me wonder big picture here. It's like, are there writers who can look at Star Trek and go, are they coming to it and saying, well, it's not Star Trek unless you have Spock. Therefore, we've got to fit the Spock family, the Sarek family, into Discovery, which we did the first 2 seasons. And guess what? It's not Star Trek unless you have Borg. So now we've got to fit Borg into this as well. And I wonder why that impulse is there.
What I will say I was thinking about like, what if Tarka is Lazarus? That's a fairly deep cut because that's not the greatest episode of TOS. And I think for the people that have not seen all of TOS, that's likely not one of the episodes that they've seen. Trouble with Tribbles, Arena, like there's a handful of episodes that if you've seen any, those are the ones that you've seen. I will say that I feel like if that's the case, that more people might go back to that episode and watch it and then get reinterested in TOS. And I feel like that's something that Star Trek has always done well. And I'm not saying that this is like the greatest exercise, because at some point you're trying to get new fans in and you might alienate them by consistently making those kinds of references. But there's a fine line, because when the J.J. Abrams films came out, a lot of people went back and watched the original series. So there was re-interest in that. And I appreciate when that happens, because it helps keep the franchise alive, even if people are going back and watching the old material. So I think there's a balance there.
I'm of two minds about it. I mean, it's sort of just like it's like a great remix on a song. Like if you can come out with a great remix that makes me appreciate the original, cool, then those two things can exist in my head, and I will want both of them and I will appreciate them differently. But if every song that ever comes out is a riff on the same previous song, it's like, okay, I need some other creativity here. If you can go back to an episode and if you can pull, Unearth Lazarus and make me appreciate that episode, because I do not appreciate that episode at all.
That would be less obvious. That would be less obvious than being like, we're going to do the Borg again. Because
right. That would be super cool. And I feel the same way about Spock and Sarek. Like I got 25 plus years of the Sarek family, and they were great. They were awesome. So I don't need to be told this is Star Trek because look, here is also Sarek. But I'm just rehashing my season 1, season 2 issues, and I apologize to everyone within the sound of my voice. We do have a couple other callers, but Vice Admiral, I do want to know if you got any other thoughts tonight, any other angles on this episode.
No, I think that what we might be seeing, and again, let's hope it's not the Borg because that would be predictable with Omega, but that is what it is. But I think if we're able to get outside the galaxy here, maybe for the first time because of the barrier, except for a couple of very, very special circumstances, then what are we going to find? Are we going to find out that this thing is what there's more of them, and people living in galaxies are kind of like, those are just the slums. Everybody's really living in between galaxies. That's where all the powerful folks are.
That's a good point. Could very well be.
In a galaxy, you got all kinds of things that destroy things, gamma ray bursts all the time, and supernovas and all that. Maybe in between is where all the cool kids live.
Yeah, no, it could very well be. I mean, this is truly unexplored territory for Star Trek if we're able to go there. And I can only think that we broke the galactic barrier a couple of times, and then the Kelvins.
Yes, from TOS. Andromeda.
And that was really the only other real encounter that we had
in TOS.
Yeah. So this, I guess we will all just have to hang out for 5 more episodes. 5 more episodes?
Is it 4 or 5?
4 more episodes.
We're going to be at 13, right? 4.
Yeah. So
that's right.
Because of math.
Thank you. And then that overlap with Picard. So watch out, folks. All right,
John, Holly, it's been great. Talk to you again soon.
See you. Take care. Till next time.
Take care.
Hey, before we jump over to our next caller, I will very quickly remind everybody to join us at Patreon. We have had a mini explosion, not DMA size explosion, but a mini explosion on our Patreon. People signing up, joining us over there at patreon.com/missionlog, and then joining us on Discord. And it has been so cool and so much fun. Those of you who are members now, you already know you get early access to our shows. You get the unedited kind of me and Norman riffing before the shows. You get the video version of all of our shows posted exclusively to Patreon. And then we get our Hangouts, and our Discord has truly become a community on its own. There are so many topics there, and I just love popping in, a few times a day, and you see people talking about everything from British sci-fi of the 60s and 70s to what they had for dinner. And this is what I am there for. So join us if you haven't, patreon.com/missionlog. You get everything for as low as $1 a month. There's even a discount if you sign up for the whole year. So that is a really good deal. The higher tiers, you get some exclusive Mission Log swag. And the highest tiers, you actually get your name in the show as an associate producer. So go have a look, patreon.com/missionlog. Join us there. I look forward to seeing all of you in our Discord. All right. Our next caller, who has been patiently standing by, it's Cosmo. Time to check in with Cosmo. How you doing tonight, sir?
Good evening. Forgive me being in the dark. They're filming an independent movie at my house yesterday and today, so I'm relegated to the backyard right now.
Oh, no way.
That's not what I expected the explanation to be.
Well, I've been cooped up in the office all day, but now they're filming right adjacent to the office, and so I'd have to be whispering in there. So I'm out back, and I stayed home to monitor and manage the situation, which involved me staying in the office all day. But my poor wife and the twin 2-year-olds and our 6-year-old had to get out of the house the last 2 days. So she needs a stiff drink once she gets home. And
Well, I mean, they're paying for that space, right?
they are.
Okay, good.
Yeah. And it's our first time having them in the house. We had a music video filmed in the front yard a couple weeks ago, and that was no big deal. But it's intimidating seeing them move all our stuff around. And but yeah, it's cool.
That's wild. Look, you don't need to be so modest. It's probably Picard season 3 doing another time travel thing, and they just happen to end up at your house. In the San
Fernando Valley.
Yeah.
Back to what you guys were just talking about. My gut tells me it's not the Borg. I just got the feeling from when the stuff involving them in Picard that the Borg are kind of done.
Yeah.
That whatever Voyager's final interaction with them, it wasn't like they were liberating Borg. It seemed like they were just reclaiming, freeing deactivated drones. And I sure got the feeling that they're kind of done, that Voyager did some serious damage. So I would be very surprised if the DMA people ended up being Borg. And so I got a negative and a positive. One thing that really stuck out to me and took me out of the episode was when Burnham and Book have come to an agreement, and Burnham says, "Okay, all right, let's go, great." And like you said, you knew Tarka was going to do it. We all knew it. The characters should have known it. I know for plot reasons they didn't, but I'm just sitting there like, why are you leaving him unattended? Don't let him have access to the controls. And then he shoots it off, and everybody acts surprised. And I'm trying to think, like, in that episode of TNG where there's the Warden from Shawshank Redemption is trying to go get Cardassians, and they let him stay on the ship with the first officer in command, and then he still goes off and attacks more Cardassians. But he's a Starfleet officer. Tarka's not Starfleet. No one should have any trust in him. And for the characters they should have made some effort, and then he could have used his brain to still fire it.
Let me propose this, though. If being aggressive toward Tarka would then shut off Book's ability to trust either Burnham or anybody else from the Discovery crew, I mean, that could also be part of the equation there. It's just like, if you're in command and you go to a guy like Book and say, "Hey, look, we know you, we trust you, we're on your side here. We feel for your loss of your planet. You're acting as Culber says. He's angry, he's fearful, he's got all of these things going on. But by the way, while we're doing that, we're also manhandling Tarka and wrestling him to the ground because he can't be trusted near anything." It's like that could send the wrong signal.
Yep, fair.
That said, I think your point is very fair. Just from a dramatic perspective, it's like, we know something has to happen. We know that eventually that weapon is going to be set off, and that Tarka is not to be trusted. We all know that, even if Holly doesn't want to believe it, that Tarka just cannot be trusted.
No, I know he can't be trusted. I mean, I feel like Vance is playing into this too, right? Because like, Vance is the admiral, and he's the one that was like, I trusted Tarka. I put him into this role. I don't know. Reminder that the characters are also not seeing everything that we're seeing.
Sure. Yeah. Good point.
And then my positive was the idea of these aliens being from between the galaxies is really exciting to me. That's one of the most exciting things recent Trek has thrown out there. And I hope it gets paid off, and it's not just a MacGuffin or just gets pushed to the side for dramatic interpersonal stuff. But Star Trek, like you guys just talked about, has been so confined. I mean, up until Voyager and Deep Space Nine, it was just in basically half our galaxy, maybe mostly a quarter. And so to get to explore what could be out there beyond it is a really exciting idea, and I look forward to seeing what they show us.
And that's a good point. That could be something really unique for Discovery, like particularly when you look back at all of these shows years from now, that pretty much all of Star Trek has been obviously in our galaxy, and we've hopped from quadrant to quadrant in different series and different times when that was important to the story. But because you have this several hundred years distance between TOS era, TNG era, and now, they have this luxury of being able to push that Star Trek envelope quite a bit more and present at least some ideas of like, yeah, Star Trek is looking at the final frontier. It's trying to see what's out there in space. What if we go even further and we're looking beyond our own galaxy at something extragalactic or into another galaxy? That's great. That could honestly be the legacy of this show. And I'm curious to see where their creativity takes them with that.
Yeah, because I love to explore what's between the galaxies. Let's go to another galaxy we've never been. And, once this whole DMA stuff is done, I'd love to see Discovery explore or have reasons to go to other parts of the galaxy. Go check on the Gamma Quadrant. It's been, 900 years since the Dominion collapsed. Well, let's go explore over there, or let's go back to the Delta Quadrant. So I'd love to expand things now that they are getting the Federation rebuilt in the future. And so it's exciting. So good job, Discovery.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you for calling tonight, Cosmo, and go reclaim your house when you can. Okay.
Good to see you guys.
All right. Take care. All right. We have Alan, who is waiting patiently from the lower decks. How you doing tonight?
Doing good. It's good to be with you guys again tonight. This is the President's Day party. We're happy to be here.
You know what? Can I just say, I came in today and I was like, there's nobody here. Why is it empty? Why is there nobody here? But it sure is quiet, and that's kind of pleasant. And now, it took me all day to figure that out. So,
mail should be arriving any minute now.
Right.
And then, and Holly, congratulations. Fun fact, skydiving has consistently been my joke answer for what I'm giving up for Lent every year. So
so you're like John, that can be your
Are you giving up skydiving this year for Lent?
Oh yeah.
Are you? Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Cool. I may join you in that then.
It's worked so far.
Okay, cool. Good for you.
Yeah.
Well, what is on your mind tonight, Alan?
Well, I'm really enjoying all the theorizing about the nature of 10C and everything going into the deep dives into the lore. I think that's really cool and certainly above my pay grade as far as remembering stuff from the show. I just really just another really solid episode that I think you guys have been talking about it all evening of how it's there was a good pacing, good action, decent stakes. When you call it Rubicon, somebody's going to press that button.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's just how it works. Obviously the people in the show don't know that they're in Rubicon, but there you go. And then just the continued presence and expansion of stuff to do for the bridge crew is just good to see. Loved having Rachel and Cheryl back as Non. That was
so cool.
Yeah. And speaking also of guest stars, I think it's Tara Rosling as Tarina.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'm not normally a shipper, but boy, Saru and Tarina really that works for me for some reason.
They're so sweet and respectful of each other.
Yeah.
It's sweet, respectful,
it's almost like this Merchant Ivory style relationship, but there's so much tension there, and they won't ever express their true feelings, but you're just waiting for them to be able to get together.
Upstairs, upstairs, downstairs.
Yes.
Maybe by the end of the season, guys, we might get some hot finger on finger action.
Yes, that's what we're here for.
Awesome. And in the shuttlecraft scene with Culber and Saru and Bryce and Reese just getting, continuing the debate about the DMA.
Bryce and Reese's argument was really good.
That got heated. And, I say I think it's good that I think was it Reese who said you don't know what it's like to lose everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's good that they had him say that, because when you're in an argument, a lot of times you do say really stupid things that you might regret later on, especially when you're in a small confined space with 3 other people who have also literally lost everything.
Yeah. No, and it's one of those things where, okay, we know what the argument is because they laid it out very nicely at that Federation assembly early on. But the fact that they have gone back to it in meaningful ways that have personal impact, I feel like have set a really nice tone for this in a way that other Star Trek doesn't always get to do, which is when you're telling telling a story that is just encapsulated in one episode, you kind of have the argument for a moment, and then somebody in authority makes a decision, and you move on from that, and it's never spoken of again. But here you actually have people who are feeling the impact of what their decision or what the orders are that they have to follow. I thought it was very effective, and just from a writing and production standpoint, I thought the other success of this episode is that even though it is firmly bounded by the big arc that we're telling this season, you could take all the moments of action and all the character moments, and they actually do work on their own. Some episodes feel very standalone, and they just feel kind of crammed into the season. I go back to season 1, and you look at Magic to Make the Sanest Man Go Mad. That's an episode we all remember because it was such a standalone, and it felt like it didn't fit, even though it was a great episode. Here you have this very nice balance of something that is part of the arc, but everything that happens in its own sort of mini arcs in the episode, where the characters where Burnham has to get with Nan, where Burnham has to get with Book, what Tarka's decisions are. Even on this small scale, Saru getting the advice that he needs to go follow up on his feelings with Tarina. Those are all satisfying, beginnings, middle, and end, or the end of a moment leading to the possibility of a next step. So I thought that all worked extremely well.
Yeah. And I feel like going back to Bryce and Reese very quickly, I always really love to see bridge crew or main characters disagree with each other, because very early on, as we know, Roddenberry was extremely against that. And while I appreciate his vision of what he thought that would be in the utopian society, is like, if you're on the same team, you agree with each other. It's quite unrealistic. So I always appreciate when they get into a tussle with each other.
Let me ask you this, though, because I never took that to mean that bridge crew or members of Starfleet or member of the same ship crew don't have differences of opinion and very heated differences of opinion. I always took it to mean that they're able to express their differences of opinion. They will also follow their orders. They will also band together to do what is right at the end of the day. So I feel like there was this kind of weird, of course, I don't know what Gene's intentions were, but I always felt like there was this weird kind of extreme version of that to say they can't ever fight.
Right.
Yeah.
And I feel like that wasn't maybe the intention.
Misinterpreted.
No.
Yeah.
I completely agree with that. I think that is the best interpretation of that. I don't necessarily know that that's how they were interpreting that at the time. You guys, partially because you guys just did What You Leave Behind, because I watched that on YouTube. It also pointed me in the direction of a certain other documentary about the early years of TNG. That,
Yeah.
a certain
Uh-huh.
I don't know if that's a persona non grata situation or not, so I'm not going to mention it. But
No, you're talking about Chaos on the Bridge. Yeah.
ASK on the Idge Bray. But yeah, that definitely, that's certainly what Maurice Hurley thought it meant. Was nobody disagrees about anything. And yeah, no, that is interesting. And I think what I like about getting the bridge crew more involved and getting just all the characters involved in general is because when TNG really started to sing, when Pillar showed up and in season 3, is that it stopped being, we can't disagree about anything. It's, this is a problem. This is a Data problem or a Worf problem or a Troy problem or whatever. And they present, it's a problem for that character, and then everybody else sort of, chimes in and gives their opinion. It goes back to ethos, pathos, and logos. And that's kind of how I felt the main conflict in this episode was as well. It was Michael and Booker on opposite sides trying to work something out, and on each of their shoulders is the little, I'll just say the devil or the angel on their shoulder, or whatever you want to think of it as, saying, this is your duty. This is what we got to do. And they're just like, come on, I know that's what I have to do. I know that's what my duty is, but let's try and figure something out.
Yeah. It's a very Picard thing to say, we're always going to try to negotiate. It's Burnham at every turn saying, like, look, I know we could pull the trigger. I know that we could fire that torpedo, but here's a chance for compromise. Here's a chance to negotiate. Here's a chance to try to come to a better solution at every turn. It was really cool to see.
Yeah.
Alan, we have one more caller standing by tonight, so we're going to say goodbye, and we will see you again very soon, I hope.
The gentleman from Iowa cedes his time for Valeria.
Okay. And
have a good evening.
Take care. Yeah, as we're here at the end of the episode, just waiting to have our minds blown, as Earl has said. Great to see Valeria back on the show, so welcome, and what do you got for us tonight?
Hello, true believers.
Welcome.
Yeah. So I was telling Earl that, like, for the most part, I have given up on Discovery being the show for me, but there is one exception that keeps me coming back, just hoping for more, and it is Saru and Tarina, or Saru, as I've been calling them. And I just feel so fed this week.
That's fantastic.
I thought that first scene between between the two of them was great, and then later we get Saru going to Culber for advice about it.
That first scene between them also was a really I feel like that was also a continued conversation about asking for help, right? Because he was like, this helped free up my mind and I'd like to do it again. Can you help me? Which I appreciated that portion of it as well.
And I'm just like, now Ojesta.
But there was there's something really great about the efficiency of that storytelling, because again, you just have that one scene with them at the beginning. You've got the follow-up at the end with Saru and Culber, but just purely through understanding, you get what's going on in Saru's mind. And it's this efficiency of dialogue, this efficiency of the scenes that really I always look for in good storytelling. Yes. You don't need to spend half the episode doing it. You can infer so much when you've got great actors like Doug Jones who can sell the emotion. It's wonderful.
Absolutely.
It's great.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Makes me so happy.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad. Anything else in the episode that stood out to you, positively or negatively?
So I know y'all were just talking about like in the discussion between Bryce and Reese, but like for me, I just felt like the writing of that was just so clunky that the whole time I was just feeling really bad for those actors. That was what those.
Was it too on the nose, or
It just
what was
felt
the feeling?
very. It just felt very clunkily written. Like, I don't know. I feel like Prodigy had more adult presentations of similar conversations.
Okay. So you think it was a little bit juvenile in its writing?
Yeah, like I feel like we've got good story people in the writers' room on Disco, but I don't know if we have good like teleplay people in the writers' room on Disco.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I see what you mean, and there is something about that scene that's very on the nose. I think partly I give it a pass because we've had so little of those two characters who I want to know more about. And I also feel like, well, this is one of those things that would keep coming up. I think, you know, if you're out there on a mission and you're a crew member and you're being told like, okay, we're risking our lives to do this thing that we've been directed to do. But at the same time, I could emotionally feel maybe very much opposed to that mission because I think the people on the other side are doing the right thing. You know,
absolutely.
I think it would come up, but I think also to your point, how does that dialogue sit with us? Does it feel too
like
hammered home?
Yeah, like it's not the content of the discussion, it's just the composition of it.
Sure. I think that's fair. Fair.
But then piggybacking on the conversation you were just having about that with just how that plays out in like the history of Star Trek. I that's a point that's just very interesting to me because like it's very the no conflict between Starfleet people is very early TNG.
Yes.
And less TOS. Less TOS.
Yeah.
And so like people talk about it being an early thing, like a Gene era thing. But then like especially the more I've heard about just different people who were involved in the show attributing a lot of that to Maislish. I'm just like, is that really a Gene thing though? Because that's not what we see in TOS at all.
Well, and you know, keep in mind, it's always important to think about what are the stages of Gene that we're talking about, because you had Gene, who was writing TOS, writing a Western in space, and it's very post-World War II. It's very, you know, Kennedy era space exploration. It's you know, post-war economic boom. It's all this stuff influencing what was the original series. After that's over, you have Gene becoming the college lecture circuit futurism guru. And it's much less about what Star Trek was when he was creating it, and it's much more about let's have this kind of trippy discussion on what the future could be, because here's all these college kids who are inspired by Star Trek. Then, you know, suddenly Gene's back in the producer seat again when you get to Next Gen, and it's like he gets to reinvent it again. So even that, and very much to your point, you have somebody else writing his notes. So there are these very different, you know, that's why we always sort of say that with a wink and a nod on Mission Log when you're talking about Gene's vision. It's like, well, okay. Are you really though? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like for me, Gene's vision will always be write about whatever you want in your little fanfics, just no zippers in the future.
Yeah, right. Very important that you walked away with that lesson. So yes, yeah, and no square cigarettes.
Yeah, that will always be my understanding of Gene's vision.
Yes, yeah. It's a very loose thing up for interpretation, but not that. All right.
No,
Valeria, Thank you so much for calling in. It's great to see you again. Any other thoughts before we say goodnight?
No, just Joel on true.
Joel on true. Till next time. All right. Thank you. And Holly, thank you for being bodily intact and mentally intact to do the show. Really appreciate that. And to all of you, Mission Log Live is produced by Roddenberry Entertainment. Technical production on Mission Log Live provided by the incipient Earl Green. Be sure to visit podcast.roddenberry.com for the latest from Roddenberry Podcasts. If you'd like to support Mission Log directly, give us a look at patreon.com/missionlog. Special thank you to my co-host Holly, and thank you for everybody who watched us live or later. Stay safe and stay healthy. We will see you next week.
This is a Roddenberry podcast. For more great podcasts, visit podcast.roddenberry.com.